Okay, so we will get started today. Again, just some housekeeping reminders. You are going to see at the bottom of WebEx a bar, and you will see a chat icon. If you wouldn't mind actually asking your questions through the chat, just so we can make sure to kind of clear up some of the mics, because if we do have more than one mic on, it can get a little loud for the speakers and such. Just want to make sure, can everybody hear me okay right now? Okay,
Yes.
good deal. All right, now another thing is, again, we will be recording this. Now, for the recording, actually, please go ahead and visit our Tamusa Mays YouTube channel. That's actually where we will be publishing all these contents throughout the semester. So thank you again for attending, and let's go ahead and get started. I am really privileged to be joined today by a couple of our A&M-SA alumnus. Melanie and Yazmin have really been critical to the development of our Jaguars, so I'm excited for them each to share their story on remote employment. So, Melanie, would you mind taking a few moments to introduce yourself and then talk about what your role is with GM Financial?
Yes, my name is Meloney Castro, and I am a graduate from Texas A&M University. I received both my BBA and my MBA there. I work for GM Financial, and I'm the Human Resources Business.
Nice. And Yazmin, would you mind telling us a little bit more about you? I think I'm really excited because, of course, you're a new member of our team, so yay to that.
Hi, my name is Yazmin Hernandez, and I'm a new career advisor right now with College of Business. Um, Very proud of this university, Texas A&M. San Antonio, graduated in 2013 with my BBA and currently pursuing my master's, graduating this December. So yay for me.
Yeah, as y'all will see, she has that graduation cap ready in the background, Jaguars.
Mhm.
Um,
Right here.
so yeah. So let's open up the discussion. First, Melanie, I wanted to ask, how is GM Financial currently navigating this remote work environment? What have they done to make sure that their employees can transition smoothly right now?
So, as you guys know, COVID happened really, really quickly. It felt like from one day to the next, things completely changed. Our company had never done work from home before, and it was something that we hadn't considered. So we had to act quickly to make sure that the business could continue running. They came up with a process and a strategy to deploy everybody from home within 1 week. So we deployed 490 employees to work from home. We ended up utilizing desktops, which had never been done before, and I had never seen personally, even as a work from home employee with previous employers. So this was such an incredible feat for our IT team, our leadership team to be able to do. They rolled out a really smooth process. There was instructions for everybody. They had testing at the center before to make sure people had their VPNs good to go. And from there, it was a matter of everybody knowing the policies and procedures. When you log in the morning, you have to be sure to get on your instant messenger. You have to be available to communicate. Um, so it's just been a learning process for everybody there at GM Financial, but I think that it's been smooth and it has been successful.
Nice. All right, now I kind of want to dive into what each of y'all's personal experience with remote work has been before this, and how has that maybe helped you transition into this time? Yasmin, can we go first with you?
Yes, this is my second time doing remote work. My first time was a couple years ago, and I kind of transitioned between coming to the office and doing remote work, and that worked wonders. The flexibility on it is very helpful for a parent, and I love that flexibility. Now with my current role right now, my first day of work was remote. It wasn't planned. It was just because of Corona going around. So I really love the flexibility, how we have come across with the team and how I've been collaborating online now officially from day one. So I had the experience before, but now adjusting my schedule has been very beneficial, especially with having the kids and homeschooling kids. So it's been a wonderful experience from before, and I was ready for this. If it one day they were telling me you can remote from home, I mean, I was ready for that transition. It's real easy when commuting, driving, and saving all that timing on the road. It was very beneficial for me personally. So I really love to work and engage with students through my work and through my peers online. It's been a wonderful experience for me.
All right, and Melanie, what was your role like before? Did you have remote before?
Yes, I've worked remotely before. I actually started out in call center myself as a call center employee with another company, and they had offered to work from home. It was a permanent work from home position. So same thing, they rolled out processes and they had policies in place for us. And they were pretty strict back then about the work from home policies and having to follow them. We were very metrics driven, so it kept me extremely disciplined and focused on my work. I think that that really helped for this time around and helped to kind of avoid distractions and be sure that I'm meeting the deadlines for my current work right now. Work from home is a great option, especially in these unprecedented times, and especially for everybody's health. But personally, for me, I'm not a very big work from home person. I prefer the actual face to face interaction.
Nice. So I love how both of you kind of mentioned a little bit about time management. So this is my first time working remote. It was an experience so far. We are on week 5. I was wondering if y'all can kind of get some insight on, how do you stay focused? This was actually a student submitted question on how do you keep focused, make sure you are accomplishing those really important tasks, especially since there's so many of us now that may have those distractions now. I mean, you have parents that are having to homeschool, plus also maintain employment. How do you manage that? Let's see, Melanie, can you go ahead and lead us off with this one?
Yes, well, I think that organization and time management is very important. For me personally, what I do is I have a lot of times blocked off on my calendar. So I have admin times. I will put deadlines on my Outlook calendar and reminders to let me know, hey, this is coming up. I'm sure to communicate with my boss, which is important because I'm not a metrics driven employee anymore, so I don't have a lot of reporting that comes out on my end. So in order for her to know what I'm doing throughout the day, I will send follow-up emails. I've just registered us for this event. I'm participating in this event at this time. So she knows right now that I'm in this presentation for Texas A&M University. And when I had my house previously, I had a sectioned off area of the house for the office. Now that I've got a smaller consolidated place, my workstation is in the dining room table. So I just have to make it work as much as possible. Like this little dedicated space is my work area. I try not to get distracted with other things. So for me personally, I'll play the radio, but I won't put the TV on because that's a big distraction. The only small distraction that I really cannot avoid, and I'll show you guys, my coworker, but he's pretty quiet, so that's the only guy that I think that I cannot avoid.
What about you, Yasmin? Like, I've been just blown away about everything you've been able to accomplish in this time period. I know you're not just balancing us. So how have you been able to do this in such an effective manner?
It's been very challenging with having the kids at home. Um, but I have whiteboards all over the house. I started using whiteboards and cell phone calendars, and I'm a big calendar person. Everything goes in my calendar, and I set that time for that duty or for that job project that I have assigned. And I even use the calendar for family events. So being that person, and I go calendar crazy, and that's how I'm raising my kids the same. It's like you have a to-do list on your whiteboard, so you don't get up until you complete that duty. Find what best time works for you. For me, I'm a morning person, so at 7 in the morning, I'm already running emails and trying to get my work completed because I know they're waking up at certain time. So I have to manage that with my kids, and then I have to be able to compile my work through and accomplish. So having weekly goals and adding all that on my calendar, it keeps me on track and it keeps my family on track. Schedules, I'm always on time for schedules. So this is your TV time, this is your school time, this is your, for everybody, for me initially in the mornings, it's like, this is your work time, this is your quiet time. And they know, and I kind of fix myself to where I have to dress up. I have the dress code at home. Like if I'm dressed up and I have makeup and everything, they're like, okay, mama has to work. And that's how I kind of balance now, because before when I was doing remote, it was just by myself. They were gone to school, so you get a lot more accomplished. But if you follow your schedule and you set that ahead of time, I think it works. It takes time to balance out and it takes time to get to that routine. But week 5 should be already, let's go, move on. So I'm very proud of my team because I've been getting a lot of support, but I'm also proud of my kids because try to manage a 5-year-old to log into a specific time on a computer, on mute, and play back the video and all that and kind of complete the assignments. It's tough, but once you create that routine yourself as an adult, as an employee, then it trickles down, and I'm very pleased with having this. I mean, I love the flexibility across, but I also love to follow up and do that time management across with the family.
Yeah, I've noticed that having the routine of getting up, showering, getting dressed, doing my full routine like I normally do for a workday does help a lot, or else I'd be in jammies and probably not the most effective of people. So thank you for mentioning that. Melanie, you had mentioned, and I see this especially in HR people, were like, I'm so people centric, right? So right now, not having that face to face, how are you still collaborating with people? What are some of the methods that you use to still partner with teams and still get the job done?
Well, like I said earlier, my biggest resource and tool that I like to use is Outlook. And when I was in the office, I had dedicated hour in the morning and a dedicated hour in the afternoon that I would use to walk the call center floor, and that would give me time to kind of generate my business as well. So I would go and maintain my relationships with the team leaders, maintain my relationships with the employees as I'm walking the floor. A lot of times employees are kind of afraid to come down to HR. So when they would see me walk the hall, they're like, hey, I had a question for you. I haven't had a chance to go down there. Can I ask you now? And that's how I would start to build and foster those relationships with employees that may not necessarily feel comfortable, not with me, but just coming down to human resources in general. And now that we're working remotely, I have to really utilize instant messenger again to maintain the relationships with the team leaders. If I have to request something from the actual employees, the team members, I will reach out to them directly through instant messenger. I make sure that I'm building a rapport. I ask them how they're enjoying work from home, if there's anything that I can do, and then I will ask them for the task at hand. Same thing with the senior leadership level, that dedicated hour in the morning and afternoon, I will jabber each one of them. I may not have an HR update for them, but I'll let them know, hey, I'm available and I'm here to support if you need me. Please let me know. And then at the same time, giving HR updates, not just through instant messenger, but following those up with emails as a hard copy as well. So really just trying to use what I have to communicate with everybody in the best way possible. And at that token, this may not be something that everybody is comfortable with in the workplace, but my Avaya through my computer, so it's my computer phone, my work phone, is not working very well. So I just had to get comfortable with the fact that everybody is going to have access to my cell phone and call me. And I had to establish a set of working hours. You can reach me anytime 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. I'm available. So, working outside of my 40, but also making sure that I'm available to the employees that need me.
Nice. What about you, Yasmin? How are maybe some tips that you've had that have been really smooth in establishing team partnership right now?
Building that communication, I'm pretty big on communication and kind of establish down, going back to what the conversation, building that communication with your peers and kind of tell them what you're available, that your timing is very important. For me, it has worked that you set up your timing. You need to let everybody, now with being remote, everybody works at different times. While I'm awake at 7 in the morning trying to finish up some work, somebody else is at night doing that. And at night, I'm spending my time with my family. So it's gonna having establishing that relationship with your peers and connect with them to let them know what you're available and build that trust across is very important. So that's what I usually do when I'm talking to my peers. It's like I'm available through this time, and I'll have this meeting. I'll have this time available in the afternoon. That's when you can reach me out. And we have our phone set up on our computers, so I'm always available to students. We also have the software where we have the virtual office hours, and I open it up in the morning to set that to customers. The students are my customers, so I open that in the morning from 8 till 5, and that's my time where they can reach out to me. And then at 5, I shut it down and continue working on any other assignments that I have through my projects that I've been assigned. So it's very important to set up that timing, and it's been working for me very positive. Where when I sent out communication to students to provide my services, they know I'm available between those timings. So that's what has been helping for me.
Thank you for that. So, Melanie, I'm curious. So, how do you promote work-life balance, especially since right now those worlds are so blurred? I'm new to remote, and this is probably a selfish question on my part because that first week I did not move from my desk. I was there from 8 to 5. Then I realized, hey, you get really drained at that because we don't have that same interaction. What advice would you have for someone that maybe they are struggling with that right now to kind of find that balance point?
Right. It's super tempting to stay stuck at your desk and even work beyond the 8 to 5, I think, or to skip lunch because you can just sit at your desk and do that. Um, but again, making sure that, somehow you have some kind of time management and you block time off for those things. So I literally do have on my Outlook calendar from 12 to 1. I'm blocked off for lunch. And if an employee reaches out to me via cell phone during that hour, it's just like if I left the office. It goes to voicemail, and I will follow up with you when I return at 1 o'clock. I also believe importantly in taking a small break here and there. So in between projects, in between meetings or communications, I get up, especially now that we're confined in the home. I'm fortunate enough to live right across the street from the park. So I'll take about 15 minutes. I walk the dog, and I get a little bit of sunshine in. And I think everybody was in the same boat. So I don't think that we really should kind of kick ourselves in the rear. But I think that first week coming home, we were all glued to the computer nonstop. It was just, getting adjusted, making sure that you're starting to establish your routine again, just like if you were at the office. But I want to say that first week, no joke, because we were deploying so many employees and there was so many COVID questions. I really was working about a 12-hour day nonstop. And by the second week, I had to start establishing my routine and making sure that I did step away from my desk and I did take that time to rest and not exhaust myself. And one of the other important things that people may not be thinking about right now, and it didn't occur to me until a few weeks in, was now that we're working at home, we're probably less tempted to use our vacation hours or our sick leave, or in our case, we get personal days and holidays. Um, some companies may allow those things to roll over, others may not. Just because of COVID, a company may or may not make an exception. So it is important that if you need to use your sick leave or any of your vacation days, even just as a mental health day, you do that, because you may end up losing them, or you may have so many that you don't get to use it by the end of the year, and you lose it. So it's important that you still take your time off and you take those mental health days to get a break and just kind of get some respite.
So I want to talk about everybody's favorite topic, the virtual meeting. Yes, I know I probably heard some grunts from the audience, or like, oh, again, having to manage Zoom, WebEx, Skype, whatever it may be. What are some tips to make sure that you are effective in those virtual meetings? Because it is a different environment. Again, we don't have that same face-to-face all the time, or sometimes we have connection issues. How can we be really smart with that time that we do have with each other? Yazmin, I'll open it up with you, and then Meloney, if you would answer after her, please.
The first thing I would say is to open up your camera. I want to see my team. I want to be engaged. I want to feel that same connection. I'm more in a face-to-face environment. I always like that. So even if I'm not dressed up, it's like, okay, put your camera, trust yourself, gain that confidence. We want to see you. I want to see you. I want to see that you're okay. I'm usually not the one that conducts the meetings, but I do find it very mental beneficial to me when I see others on how they're doing, and I see that they're doing well during this time. But if this is going to be the norm from now on, it's like start gaining that confidence in you when it comes to meetings. Try to participate, try to engage. They said when we go back to the normal, I believe this is going to be the normal from now on for a lot of companies. So be confident with yourself, gain that confidence, turn your camera on, participate, engage. It's okay to turn it on the way you're dressed. Of course, I mean, not very professional, right, or very like PJs on, but I love that. I love to see, to join the meetings and to see everybody's face in there and to see how we're all smiling. It's difficult times across the world, we'll say. But if I see you smiling and see my team with the ones that I'm emailing back and forth, and I see their smile on them, I see that they're getting engaged and providing feedback on whatever the topic the meeting is, it makes me feel more better. It makes me feel that I'm doing my work. It makes me feel that we're all collaborating and trying to get out of this together. So that's my only advice that I have right now. I usually don't conduct meetings, but when it comes to quick questions, I do send like a couple of my peers just an email, hey, you have time to talk? And when we're talking, we want to see each other. It's like, turn your camera on, like engage. Come on, you can do it. And that really helps out the team. So that's my only advice that I have.
Nice.
Yes. So to piggyback on Yasmin a little bit, yeah, I think, it's getting over the camera. Just get over it, right? We look how we look. I don't look the same on the camera that I feel that I look in person, and you just kind of have to get over it. I think that communication, a big part of it is your body language still, and when you are visible on camera, people can see that. They get the full idea of whatever it is that you're trying to explain, and there's a little room for misinterpretation on that. I know that in the younger generation, communicating a lot via text is something that we all like to do, but it also takes the emotion out, and there is a lot of room to misinterpret that. Were they saying that angrily? Were they saying that sarcastically or jokingly, or you don't know? So definitely for meetings and things that can be done with some FaceTime, I highly recommend. A lot of times I do get employees that start getting comfortable with texting me now on my cell phone, and I'll tell them, hey, wait a minute, let's go ahead and talk. I'm going to give you a call instead, because I want you to hear my voice. There's probably a lot that I have to say, more than I prefer to text, or more than I would text. I will shorten text if it's too long. So I want you to get all the information that I have to deliver to you. So I really just think getting over the camera, nobody's looking, if you look funny or whatever at that. We're more concerned of We just want to see your face. We want to interact with you.
Now, I loved how Yasmin kind of mentioned she alluded the fact that this may be the new norm for a bit, right? So Melly, I'm curious from an HR perspective, is this going to impact how you screen potential candidates now? Are you going to be looking to see, well, what skills are being developed, what skills are critical to survive, right, and to thrive in a remote environment? Also, are you going to care about what students potentially are doing during this time?
Yes, again, so to kind of piggyback on all of that, this is going to be the new norm to some kind of extent, right? Where people were not utilizing virtual meetings and we are working in different states. GM Financial is global. Now we've learned that this is a resource that we can use to pull each other together a lot more often. So companies are going to be utilizing WebEx or Zoom or any other Google Hangouts, any way that we can kind of all meet together face to face without actually being face to face. And I think that this is going to be the same when sourcing for candidates, and it's going to make the market just that much more competitive, where before we may have required you to come into the office for a face-to-face interview, somebody in another city may apply for a position now in San Antonio, and you know what? I don't have to, you don't have to come to the office to meet me. You can tell me, hey, I do live in Houston, Texas, but I'm interested in the position in San Antonio. Is there any way we can interview? Of course, we have WebEx now. So let's go ahead and do that. Or we have Google Hangouts to be able to do that and to interview you. And there is several recruitment softwares that include the same thing. So I think it is, again, like I said earlier, it may just be blunt and to the point, but you have to get over being in front of the camera and be prepared to have those interviews now through some kind of FaceTime, and it is going to expand the way as a company is able to recruit and look at candidates. Now we can look at an even bigger pipeline, so to say.
Now, I know probably the skills that we'll probably be talking more and more in recruitment are going to be those communication ability, right? How to effectively write and how to effectively verbalize, but also technology is probably going to be one of those components. Are there going to be specific maybe softwares that you'll be looking for at all, or just the adaptability of it?
In my personal opinion, I'm not a very tech savvy person. I'm not, I don't know what the latest technologies always are. I kind of just utilize what is handed down to me from work, but I am extremely adaptable. And I don't think that any technology in the workplace is not very user friendly. You'll always be trained on it. So it's more so the adaptability. As a recruiter, being in the business for a very long time, I've had to use different ones, ADP, Taleo, iCIMS, and at the end of the day, they all do the same thing. It's just a matter of being adaptable and being able to learn the system. So I strongly believe it's adaptability, and candidates shouldn't be scared, right? We're not going to make it hard for you for a face-to-face interview. It may just be a matter of clicking on a link and testing it out before you actually have your interview FaceTime, right? But that's the important thing, is to be able to click on that link and make sure it works before the scheduled interview, because you don't want to panic right, 2-3 minutes before that interview starts and find out that the software we sent you is not compatible with your phone or your computer or whatever it is that you're using. So always want to make sure that you test that out beforehand.
All right, Yasmin, career advisor hat on right now. So, what advice would you give, especially for students during this time? Again, it is really a scary time for a lot, right? But how can they make sure that they're prepared for that post-COVID time period?
Practicing. We've been sending out a lot of communications to students where we have softwares that help you out to gain that practice and gain that confidence. So my big thing, talking back to the conversation, this is nothing new. The Skype interviews, virtual interviews is not new. A lot of companies have been doing that for the past years, 5, 7 years. I remember the first for my HR experience before. So this is just something that has always been there. All this technology, all these tools are being there, but now are being utilized by the HR recruiters, and now companies are trying to use it more, especially with the situation that we're going through. To the students, it's just preparation, prepare, practice, practice, practice. There's a lot of learning videos online. You can research something and it will just be there and kind of start gaining that. My advice that I give to students is record yourself on the phone. The same way you sound on the phone is how you're going to sound to a recruiter when you get that initial call for an interview. After you do that and repeat that as many times as you want, then record yourself in a video. Make sure you have the eye contact. Make sure the technology is working. Make sure everything is set in place ahead of time. Not only 30 minutes, try it a couple hours before, then try it 30 minutes before, then try it 5 minutes, and then it's your show to handle that interview. But preparation and our students we have the big interview software that we use. I'm very impressed how students are really utilizing that because now they see it's coming. It's nothing new. Virtual interview is being around with other softwares though, but practicing and having that, gaining that confidence in you to have the eye contact, to provide as much information you can while you're doing the interview and be prepared with the common questions that come across from the recruiters. That's a big key. I mean, it's something that the students are really engaged on that, and something that we can continue communicating to them that this is going to be something that is going to continue from now on, even after we're done with all this COVID-19. Then it's going to continue like that because it's a benefit for the organizations when they're doing this remote interviews, but it's also a benefit for the students to start gaining that confidence on them and be in front of the cameras. So my advice is just like practice, 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 and let us know. I still do several appointments with students where they're like very shy, and I'm like, no, 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 come on, let's get engaged. Let's get engaged on the questions. You never know if you're going to be on a TV and everybody else is going to see you on the side. They're like, are you kidding? I'm like, no, it's reality. You may have one person in the front, but you don't know who else is watching it on the other end. So be prepared for that. And I've seen a lot of good response with the students as well. So I'm very, very excited with that moving forward.
Yeah, totally agree. Jaguars, don't forget to be proactive then reactive. This is a really cool time that you can take that extra step to, well, are there any skills that I could be better at? Or maybe there are any technologies that I need to know. Or maybe even actually researching the roles that you want to go into and taking that time to be like, okay, now I can develop that skill. Especially given the fact that how Melanie said, they have a wider range now of candidates. How do you make sure you're going to be marketable again to that recruiter once this is done? Make sure to upskill, please, please, please. Melanie, any advice again for Jaguars that maybe having to cope with this job search component, or again having to adjust to this remote work environment?
Yes. So, I mean, right now is definitely a time where you can use this time for development. There's companies that have put hiring freezes on, but as soon as things start to return back to the new norm, and as soon as some companies start to recoup, the hiring boom is going to happen again, and you've got to be prepared. So right now is the best time to do practice interviews, research companies, look at how companies have treated their employees during this time, during this pandemic. Is this a company that you want to work for? Is this a company that, how did they handle all of this? So you definitely want to make the most of the time right now. And again, research companies, look up reviews. I'm sure a lot of employees have gone on social media or Glassdoor and have talked about how their company has treated them during this time. You can do practice interviews, really, polish your resume, polish your resume, polish your LinkedIn account, and just start doing your research. You want to make sure that you're as prepared as possible for when that hiring boom does happen again, because it's going to.
So attendees, just FYI, if you do have any questions, please feel free to enter them in the chat. And we actually do have our first submission for a question from Karen Ivy. Shout out to the Director of Career Services. She's coming on a student and employee perspective on, you had stated the fact, walking away from the desk, because we all do get tired, especially from being in front of screens all day. But is there anything else that you do to kind of prevent that Zoom fatigue? So you know how you go back to back into webinars, into virtual meetings. How do you break that up to make sure, again, you can last that entire workday and still be an effective employee? Meloney, can you take this one first for us?
Sure. Well, as somebody who's in a more mid-level professional role where I do have back-to-back meetings, especially right now with COVID, there's so many pop-up meetings that happen with updates, let us know where the company's going, what the company plan is, they want input. You're right, you can get a little bit of Zoom fatigue in there. But at the same time, like I said, you have to be as organized as possible. You cannot prevent pop-up meetings. But what I do is I really map out my day. So in the morning, there's dedicated time for emails. There's dedicated time for instant messaging. The leadership team, catching everybody up. I make sure to schedule time on my computer to walk away. I've also been fortunate enough that some of our meetings are just conference calls, and to be honest, I really will get my cell phone, put my earbuds in, and I'll take the meeting outside. There's nothing preventing me from doing that. It's an update. I need to listen to it, but at the same time, I can walk away and be able to do that. So if you are fortunate enough, or you are able to, maybe take your work outside. Take your laptop out there and sit in the back porch, and you can work from outside and kind of help alleviate some of that, being stuck inside and I'm on WebExes all day. You're not going to get in trouble, trust me, for being able to take your meeting from your backyard. I've seen plenty of people do it in this time.
To add, I want to add to that I do the same thing. If it's a webinar, depending on the meeting, like a lot of times I look at my calendar, what's going on tomorrow? If the whole afternoon is taken, like this afternoon is this meeting, and then next I have all booked until 5. Then in between I do have a webinar, so that's when I take a break from my computer, plug it in on my phone, and then walk around, help the kids with whatever questions they have with homeworks, then come back to my desk or organize my table, because everybody uses the same table in my house. So it's like, okay, let me do a little cleaning here while I'm still being connected with the webinar or with what's going on. Now, if it's more in a formal meeting, then that's when I usually block the time and tell my kids, hey, I'm going to be busy from noon till 5. Oh, okay. So kind of having that communication and having that time to kind of it's okay to take a break. Like she said, it's okay to go outside and hear that webinar from outside, sitting from your porch, or a lot of times I just do it to just kind of go check my mail, just to take a little break. Let me plug it in on my phone, walk outside, check my mail, and then come back. Even that refresher of 5 minutes will keep you going for the rest of the day.
Nice, thank you. Yeah, I agree with the outside. I actually set up our patio just to be a work spot just in case I needed that break. So there's some things I know, hey, there's certain projects I'll go outside and work on because I just feel much more creative if I'm outdoors. All right, so we have another question about virtual internships. Now, this is one I know that GM Financial is still kind of trying to plan out what internships is going to look like this summer. But do you have any tips, Meloney, on maybe some tips that y'all are doing to prepare for that first day of internship if they do go online?
Well, tips for the students is just to be as prepared and as attentive as possible. And to be patient. This is going to be something new that a lot of employers have never considered before. So it's a learning process for them. It's a learning process for you. I honestly cannot tell you what a virtual internship would look like because I've never done one before. But it's most likely going to be just like a work from home position. So you're going to have to be adaptable and you're going to have to be able to adjust quickly. And again, big communication with whoever your leaders are, right? This is what I'm working on, the project you assign me. Just communicate with them constantly because that's most important, right? Your boss wants to know what you're doing. Your boss wants to know what you've accomplished for the day. They shouldn't have to ask you, hey, where are you on this project? You should be proactive in communicating that to them. I'm working on this report that you gave me. I'm almost done with it. I personally do that with my boss constantly. Hey, you sent me this list of employees to knock out these tasks. I had 25 of them. I've got all but 5 right now, and I'm reaching out. So she constantly knows, and I'm constantly updating her, so she knows that these things are going to get done. But I would say definitely keep that one tip in mind that your boss shouldn't have to reach out to you to ask you where you're on something. You should be reaching out to them, letting them know where you
Yeah, I think we're in a time that over communication is not a thing, right? So just being very open about it, not being afraid to ask questions, especially right now, especially with internships. If they are going to be going to virtual, you're probably going to see where the timeline may change. Again, they may be project based. You're going to have that open line of communication. What do expectations look like? How do I receive feedback? So establishing that from day one is really going to be a game changer. Now, another thing I have a question on. So again, from the employee hat here, how have you really kept that virtual like bonding with your team? Because a lot of us we see each other every day. You know, we have that connection. That's what's really kept us really effective. How are you creating a culture within this virtual environment? Because it's very easy just to kind of get disconnected right now, right? Melanie, can you start us off on what GM Financial is doing here?
Yes. So within our department alone, we have a group email that's been going on. We started out with just some small bonding. We each took a picture of our work from home station. We took a picture of us at our work from home station with our unofficial coworkers or therapy dogs. We've sent pictures. We have people that are sending us pictures of what work at home looks like for them with their families, their children, their babies. Everybody's working. So we did that. And then we did I guess it was started out as like a Facebook thing and it made its way to the workplace, but it's you as a kid and then you posing in the same picture as an adult and you kind of, talk a little bit about how you were as a kid and now you are as an adult. So we've done some fun activities like that just to keep the bonding going from a distance. And then, of course, with our virtual meetings, it's not a requirement for you to video, but for the preferences is that we all video. That way we can see each other because if not, it is easy to get disconnected. So I think just sharing some small personal things about you and how you're handling the work from home definitely bonds. And then you may feel like you're the only one. At first I'm like, oh my God, I have my dog and I have to take him out every couple of hours or every so many hours. And then you see pictures or you hear that story and somebody else is telling you, my dog just attacked the mailman, or oh my God, I was in a meeting and my dog barked in the background nonstop. So you don't feel like you're the only one, or you don't feel like you're going to get in trouble because now we're all, oh yeah, that happened to me. We're in the same boat. And we really are, kids, everybody, people are not used to being work from home with their children being home every single day. So I think that this really does help people kind of navigate, well, what best practices do you use because you have the children and you have to focus on.
Yazmin, do you have any advice for, say, especially parents right now, managing all this? Again, having to be an employee plus having to manage a family. How are you doing it at this moment?
It's just a lot of time management across with the whole family and adding to the conversation. It's okay if they come through the cameras. It's okay if they, we have to understand as parents that they're also dealing with all that social distancing. They're getting out of their norm now. And the first couple weeks was crying. I want to go back to school. I want to go back to school. Okay, well, you see, it's like you're coping with work and then they're coping with this, like how being away from school. You didn't want to go last week. Now you're crying, you want to go? It's like, I want, because they're so used to that routine. So allowing the family at the workplace is, this is my workplace right here. I'm perfectly fine with them. A lot of the times I do tell them, hey, dress code, like my 5-year-old, make sure you're wearing like, I don't mind. Sometimes he just wants to give me a hug and I'm in the middle of a meeting. It's okay. It's okay to share those moments with who's behind the screen. So I take it very personal when it comes to the family. I don't put any rules across to say, hey, do not cross this wall right here because this is my workplace and you can't come up. No, it's just being more open to them, and that has helped them to gain the confidence as well because they're doing a lot of learning online. So it starts gaining the confidence on them as well. I don't have a problem to share my screen with no makeup, with a bun, and my son screaming on the side, and it's just make it fun. Make it. I have this hat in here, and a lot of the times where I do the meetings with students, I wear it. I do wear it. Is something that I want to get engaged with the students when I have meetings with them. I'm not afraid. This is representing graduation for this year. So every time I have a meeting with students, I wear my hat. This is for you. I know you're dealing with this tough situation right now. How many students are they're getting depressed for not having uh, their graduation this in the next two weeks? So how many students? And that's something that we don't know. So making it fun and engage with employers and with other, I mean, my customers are students, so all the time I want to have that confidence with them and make them laugh, making being interactive with them and engaging with them. So that way we start moving forward and they don't feel like they're behind or they're afraid. Like I said, this is going to be the new norm now moving forward, and just kind of engaging with them is what I recommend a lot of the times. Make it fun.
And thank you, Melanie, especially for mentioning that this isn't a typical remote work experience. It's really out of the norm right now, right? The fact is, I've been on so many webinars. You're talking about like national scale webinars, and I'm listening to the speaker, and I hear a dog bark, or I hit a kiddo in the background, or see like the dog pop up in the video, and that's okay. Again, it's one of those. Of course, if this is a job interview, then yes, there's those clear barriers. But right now, for the remote employee, there is an overlap because this is a very different environment than an assigned before COVID remote experience. Now we have about 10 minutes, and I want to close off with what is y'all's biggest piece of advice or biggest learning moment so far as a remote employee? Yazmin, can you go first on this? And then Melanie, you will wrap us up on that.
Yes, my biggest advice would be to utilize your time wisely. There's a lot of time for improvement on your skills. There's a lot of time for you to gain new skills. There's a lot of time for you. If you don't utilize this time, then don't blame it on time. It becomes like, oh, I don't have time. I don't, well, now you have the time. So utilize it. A lot of the advice I give to students is be ready for whenever we go back to open uh, the job market. Are you ready? Are you gaining all those skills to come forward and be the number one to apply for that particular job you've been dreaming? So prepare yourself. There's a lot of training on LinkedIn. There's a lot of free training on lynda.com. I utilize that myself for Excel, for little videos here and there, 5 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour. Utilize that time, the time that you have on your hands right now, to upgrade your skills. be ready for that day when we get the okay, you're ready and prepared to hit the market. And prepare your resume, prepare all these tools that you need to prepare your interview skills, practice those as much as you can. Network, connect on LinkedIn, ask questions. It seems like now we all have time to be on our cell phones in the afternoons or whatever time to be on LinkedIn, connect with others, start establishing that professional network and be ready for whenever that day comes.
All right, Melanie.
Yes. So, as an employee, use this time as much as possible to let your best work shine through. I know that for me, having the quietness at home, my reports look a lot different. I've been able to really make some improvements on there and have them be the best ones. If you're a job seeker or a candidate, just like Yazmin said, right now is the perfect time to use a lot of developmental tools. There's a lot of time to do that. There's a lot of time to polish your resume, polish your interviewing skills. A lot of time to be able to practice and record yourself and make corrections as much as possible. And there's a lot of time for research as well. Again, I cannot emphasize that enough, right? You want to know what industry you're going to, what companies look like, what are the benefits, how did they handle COVID-19 crisis? Was this what we thought was one of the strongest industries, which was oil? I just read the barrel crashed below zero. So can your company withstand some type of pandemic like this again in the future? Is this the area of business that you'd want to go into? Very important to just utilize this time wisely altogether. And as an employee, I think that if you felt that your workday was busy and you didn't have enough time at the office, being at home really does change that. And now you do have a lot of time for things that you may not have had time for before. So now is the time for your best work to really shine through.
Nice. Thank y'all so much. Yeah, I know I'm one that I've had to be forgiving with myself, right? Okay, it's okay if you didn't get to accomplish every single thing on your list today because other things happen and also the process is different. So just being forgiving for yourself, again, having to balance that, it's okay. But effectively manage your time, that is the biggest one. If you're one that you enjoy making lists, checklists, Outlook schedule, whatever it may be, this is the time to really utilize that as a skill. So I want to thank Melanie, especially GM Financial. Thank you as always for being so supportive to the development of our students. Thank you to everyone who submitted questions in the chat. We greatly appreciate it. Melanie, if anybody has any follow-up questions, is it okay if they connect with you via LinkedIn?
Yes, you can connect with me via LinkedIn, Meloney Castro. You'll see me pop up. My first name's pretty unique, so I think I'm like the first one to pop up on there. You'll see GM Financial listed as my employer. I'm always happy to answer any questions or mentor or guide anybody with any questions you may have. So please connect with me on there.
Yeah, and she's always been fantastic with it. I know she's taken the time even to welcome students over to GM Financial, welcome to lunch, just answer any questions, especially HR students. She is an actual HR alumnus as well. So if you do have questions, even what that certification process looks like, I know Melanie can speak to that too. So please, Jaguars, use her as a resource for your data finding journey. And then Yazmin, thank you also for taking the time to join us today. College of Business, please know that if you have any questions about your career readiness, maybe you need some help with your resume, your interview, or even how to navigate networking in this environment. Yazmin's a wealth of knowledge, so please make sure to reach out to her in this time frame. We will be continuing this series next week, so please join us if you have questions on how to now navigate this virtual job search. Whether it's talking about applicant tracking, again, what is that resume going to look like? How do we actually plug in keywords? I think that's a question every job seeker has questions on, right? Because that's really tricky sometimes. Also talking about the virtual interview, because again, as Yazmin mentioned, this has been going on for years, but especially now, given the time that we are in COVID, the actual online interview is going to be a stronger reality. So how do you prepare for that? how do you actually handle those question banks? Also, what are maybe some questions to expect during this time? So please make sure to join us we'll be having security service as our facilitator next week. Also, make sure, stay connected with the Mace Center. We're here to support you throughout your career journey as a current student and also as an alumnus. So please make sure to connect with us via our website, email, even all of our social media, which we're really engaged on. As a reminder, this session is recorded and will be published on our YouTube channel, which is at Tamusa Mays. So please make sure to check that out. It will be posted either today, if not tomorrow. Again, thank you both for your time, and thank you for everyone who attended. Again, kudos to everyone, and everyone stay safe out there, okay? And best of luck.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.